Hello, welcome back to another installment of DrDarnise's House of Religion, Magic, and Conjure. So glad to have you back. Welcome to all the new subscribers. The channel is really growing, y'all, and I'm really happy about that. So continue to like, share, subscribe, support in any way you can. That's wonderful. But yeah, people got really excited about the last video that I posted about Beyonce's Black Parade. And, it's because it celebrates us, right? It celebrates African spirituality. It celebrates Black culture and Black history, Black religious symbols, all of that, right? So most of us watching this video have been really indoctrinated. If we live in the West, if we live in the US or we live in Europe, we have been indoctrinated with Western civilization, since we were born, going to schools, and we were told Western civilization, the history of America, the history of whatever European nation we live in. And people are tired of it. Black people in America, look at how the statues are coming down, these Confederate statues, or I should say the statues of Confederate leaders, the monuments to old white supremacist kind of dominant narrative that we've all lived under, right? The time for those things has obviously come to an end, right? Because they're literally being pulled down in our societies. It's like in America, I'll just speak to that because I live here in America, we have had enough. And so when we hear a prominent person like Beyonce or her sister Solange talking about and celebrating African goddesses, African spirituality, we are excited. And I'm excited just being a religion scholar and being a person who practices African spirituality. I'm excited for the culture because it means that the messages are getting out to more people who would never have looked at it, who would never look at it because they have a Christian orientation and they think something's wrong with the African, as we've all been told under, Western civilization. Don't look to Africa, right? Don't look to Africa while we steal all the resources. That's been the game up to now. So anyway, in Beyonce's Black Parade, she talks to us about Oshun, she talks to us about Yemaya, and, going back to her video from Lemonade, when she did that whole homage to Oshun, we're used to Beyonce at this point now talking about Oshun. And if you don't know about her, Oshun, she is a goddess of the Yoruba or Ifa pantheon called an Orisha, and she is the goddess of sweet water of rivers and fertility and beauty. We might, through our Western lens, look at her similar to the goddess of Venus or Aphrodite, but the original is Oshun, and so she's associated with those things, and particularly it seems that Beyonce is really into the fertility aspect of Oshun. I don't know exactly, but I want to say, I like to go beyond the surface, and I can't really do that here in this video. It would be 2 hours long to talk about African spiritualities in any depth. So what I want to do is refer you to a text, a reference book, where you can look up information about Oshun or Yemaya or Oludumare, the high creator god, or Ogun, Oshosi, any of these African deities that you're now hearing about in passing, and the names don't quite mean anything because you don't know about the other Orisha. Beyonce's making Oshun and Yemaya kind of trendy, maybe Oya, but there's so many more, right? So there's this enormous, I've probably shown this book before, enormous book, and it's a reference book, so don't think like, oh my god, I'm supposed to read this whole book. Not really. You use it like you would any reference book, and that means you go to it when you need to look something up. It is called African Narratives of Orishas, Spirits, and Other Deities, right? And it is by Alex Cuoco. Of course, you can find it on Amazon, but you can also find it, or at least order it, through various African American bookstores wherever you happen to live, or go online and just look. SO1 here in LA or Malik Books in LA would have it or be able to order it for you. Again, African Narratives of Orishas, Spirits, and Other Deities. So, if you really want to learn, then you can look up the particular one. You can look up who Oshun is and the different manifestations of her, because all of these energies, these deities, have various personality traits, we might say. And so you can go to them for a variety of reasons. But in our culture, where things are just kind of quick sound bites, download something real quick, watch a YouTube video real quick, and think we learn it. No, we don't really. We don't really learn it. So I'm a professor, so of course I'm always going to say read books and do your own in-depth study of those things that matter to you, right? Where it's like, oh, I don't want to read a whole book, I don't want to do all that. Well, then that's fine, because it means that that's not something you're that interested in. But the things where you really are interested, invest yourself, invest your time, invest your resources, meaning your money, to learn, because it makes you better. It makes you more of who you want to be. If you're going in the direction of African spirituality, how else are you going to get there except that you study? Because again, we live in a society that's based upon Western civilization, and they ain't teaching us that, right? They're never going to teach us that. Sometimes I hear people say, well, why didn't we learn this growing up in school? Why didn't they teach us in my school? It's not designed to teach us that. We have to get beyond any notion that they're going to teach us about our own African spiritualities, our own ancient African civilizations. And when they do, right, they go to Egypt, they tell us these stories about ancient Egypt, and then everybody's whitewashed. So you don't want them telling you your own story anyway, right? Okay, so that's one thing that I wanted to just kind of review with y'all about Beyonce's video. So Oshun and Yemaya. Yemaya is the mother energy of the ocean. She's also often depicted as kind of a mermaid figure. She's normally wearing blue. And yeah, so she's more of that oceanic kind of energy, whereas Oshun is the river, Yemaya is the ocean, so the waters, right? And so moving on, so Beyonce also mentioned cleansing her crystals in the moonlight. People got very excited about that, because I know many of us have crystals, we carry them, or at least have them around, and we get into different rituals about, well, how do I cleanse them, or how do I best use them? And so I just wanted to say, when she mentioned cleansing them in the moonlight, I wanted to encourage you to find out the different phases of the moon as well for other types of rituals that you might do. So yeah, you can always just put your crystals on your own windowsill or outside or whatever, for cleansing. Of course, a full moon would be a good time, right? You have the full light of the whole moon, so it kind of doesn't matter where you are, you have the full light of the moon. But you should know at least two phases of the moon: a waxing moon and a waning moon. So if you think about waxing as something that's getting bigger, right, as the moon goes through its different stages, then it expands and it ultimately comes to be a full moon. So in that stage where it's growing, it's called a waxing moon. And you can do rituals at that point, or those points, of things that you want to expand in your life, particularly as it gets really close to the full moon, and the full moon's coming up in the next day or so. What are the things that you really want to expand in your life? What are the traits that you want to take on? What do you want to receive more of? What do you want to increase? What do you want to manifest is another way of saying it. What do you want to manifest? What do you want to embrace? What do you want to bring into your life? That's how you use the power of the waxing moon, that moon that's growing. And then the flip side of that is the waning moon. I'm doing these motions so it could help you. The waning moon is when you're getting down to that little sliver. You know how you get to a sliver of the moon in the sky? Well, it's waning, it's getting smaller. So what are the things that you want to release? Those are the things that you do during a waning cycle. And the waning cycle is what happens after it's already full, and now it's going to go back into a new moon. Right? It's a full cycle, right? So those of us who are women who have a monthly cycle, right? It is a full cycle all the way through. Well, when it's full, now it's going to go back into a new moon, but it's already full. So how does it go from full to a new, right? It has to shrink. So what are the things that you want to release? What are the things that you want to shrink or get rid of in your life? So some people, you want to get rid of weight, you want to stop a habit like smoking or drinking or whatever it is you might want to let go of. you could do that through a waning moon that's shrinking. So anyway, just want to give some clarity for that, and also some crystals. So, I've done other videos here talking about crystals, well, maybe a while back, because I don't really, I haven't done one in a long time. So I'm just going to share some of the crystals that I'm working with these days. And as I talk a little bit about them, so this video is not terribly long, but you'll probably notice a particular theme of why I choose the ones that I choose. In general, I always like selenite. I always like a good, just clear crystal quartz, because that'll expand the energy around anything or raise the vibration around anything. The different things that I wear. I'm not wearing, I thought I might be wearing crystal earrings today, but these earrings come from, a friend of mine brought these from South Africa. And we were out, back in the days when we could be out. We were out in some restaurant or something at girls' night, and I just kept staring at her earrings, and I said, "Oh, I love those earrings." And she's like, "Oh, I got them in South Africa." So I was like, "Great, I'm not going to get that particular design or whatever." So she just took them out of her ears and gave them to me. So I really appreciated that, right? She says, "Well, the ancestors told me just right now to just take them off and give them to you," because she goes back to South Africa fairly frequently, so she can get herself some more. But anyway, I'm not wearing crystal earrings today. I do have some of my crystals, though, that I am working with, and I just keep them in a little jar. I have crystals all over my apartment, all over my nightstand. I sleep with some under my pillow. And the ones that I most commonly use are the ones for spiritual expansion, psychic insight, intuition, connecting with our spirit guides, expanding consciousness. That's pretty much what I'm about. And so in my own personal practices, I am interested in expanding my consciousness so that I can download or receive from my own, higher self or guides or whatever you want to call them for you, whatever term you're working with, guardian angel, archangels. There's a whole host of words that people use. And I don't like to get caught up so much on the words, because people will say, "Well, how do you believe in this?" or "How do you believe in that?" Well, I believe in the creator, and I believe that there's a non-physical universe that we don't see, and that as human beings, we name it. We give it names, right? So it's okay to call something a name, but you don't have to get caught up on what the name is, because then we're just practicing religion like other people are practicing religion, and it's full of doctrine and rules, and it makes people run away from it because it's so small, right? It's so locked in, and people are like, "Well, I don't experience the divine that way," right? So anyway, just know that even if I use some words like angels or archangels or higher self, that I'm just giving names to these these esoteric entities, these non-physical entities that we can connect with. I'm just giving them names so we can work with them. Otherwise, what would I call them? So, anyway, so some of the things that help me do that, some that I sleep with are, you might say, "You sleep with them?" Yeah, sorry, somebody was calling me. I'm just declining the call. I have some under my pillow. And typically that's jade. Jade is really good for dreams. So I do astral traveling in my dream state, and so I want to remember my dreams. I want to remember that. So I use, but I sleep with jade under my pillow. Also, what's under there right now? I think sapphire, because sapphire is really good for intuition and spiritual expansions, expanding spiritual consciousness, that kind of thing. And Moldavite. Moldavite is it's not really a crystal, but it's commonly just placed in a category with crystals also, because it really expands consciousness. It really helps you if you're that type of person and you want to go deeper into, or I should say, beyond all of the normal constructs of our daily lives, but you really want to explore. You want to remember your dreams. You want to be a lucid dreamer, meaning you want to be active in your dreams. You want to remember your dreams. You want to kind of be awake or aware in your dream state. Then you use something like Moldavite. You use something like Jade. You use something like even diamonds. So crystals just, obviously there's been a very recent interest in crystals in a very trendy way, but crystals are placed here on our earth for a particular reason, because they do have a certain energy and a certain vibration. And so it's that we as humans are really just waking up to what those uses are, what those energies are. And so if you're like, well, I don't really know what's crystals, are they just rocks? No, everything on our planet has an ashe, has a chi, has its own energy. And so it's just that we are waking up to it finally. So these things that we are able to use have corresponding power to something much larger. And again, there I go off on tangents teaching rather than just talking about the crystal. So anyway, also emerald. I have emerald right here. I've got a ruby right here. And these are, you're like, what emeralds and rubies? Who can afford that? Well, you'll see that I have them in the rough, right? So you can just easily go online and get all kinds of stones in the rough, meaning it's not jewelry quality. So these are really inexpensive. It's probably somewhere between $5 and $10 for this actual ruby. Like, these are real gemstones, but they're not jewelry quality. So they're not considered, that expensive. And then here's the sapphire. I got really tiny sapphire though. I don't know why I got such a little tiny. You probably can't even see it. Sorry about that, but I don't know. I think maybe sapphire was more expensive, so I got a couple. But I'm gonna buy an actual jewelry quality sapphire because it is my birthstone. I'm born in September, Liberty, and so I'm gonna get some actual sapphire. I do have some tanzanite, which is a blue stone that resembles sapphire, but the reason that I particularly like sapphire, other than it being my birthstone, is for psychic protection. So while you're out, sort of in the other ethers while you're asleep or something, it's good to feel like you have some psychic protection. And it's good to connect, again, like I said, to the spirit guides and for your intuition and for your own clarity. And along with that are diamonds. Again, I've got these little tiny pieces of diamonds I'm trying to hold up for you. Little tiny diamonds. These are called Herkimer Diamonds. They come out of this region of New York. Herkimer Diamonds. And so again, they're inexpensive. They're a little more expensive than these other stones that are just really rough and tumbled. They're a little bit more expensive, so I might have paid, $20 for these as opposed to like $8 for this. But affordable, for most of us. And so we don't have to think like, the diamonds that you see in the jewelry store, or the emeralds or emeralds or rubies that, most of us could never really afford. But I'm just saying, when you have your own particular spiritual practice, these are the things that you can surround yourself with. This becomes part of your daily routine. And, since we are at this halfway point, well, now we're going into July, think about what you want for your own life too, and how you're in this year. This year's been kind of crazy, but be intentional. How do you use your spirituality? What does it mean to you? It's fine to plug into something like Oshun and Yemaya and, through Beyonce or however you get it. But I'm really, really passionate about us having our own spiritual tradition that we can use on a regular basis. Are you lighting the candle? Are you using the energy of the gemstones? Are you carrying them with you? Do you have them around your house? Do you have them in your nightstand? Just for me, because I think of the dream state as another reality. I like to be awake. I like to do lucid dreaming, to explore the dream world. So I use a lot of things that are about psychic intuition and connecting to the guides. That's why I said you might find a consistent theme when I start telling you which gemstones I'm using, because they do all have that, for the enhancement of psychic ability, for the enhancement of mental clarity, for the enhancement of intuition. But, you may really be about something else. You may find like, well, more into embracing love, and so you want a rose quartz, which I have a rose quartz over here. I'm into that self-love and or being compassionate. And then you can still use green stones if you're into wanting to open your heart chakra more and be more compassionate and loving. Any green stone then becomes good. So you're back at the emerald or any of the aventurine, which is also good for money. You want green stones to bring in money and abundance. So these things have multiple uses as well. I'm just checking my notes here to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Oh, amethyst. Yeah, so here's a huge amethyst, but I also have some little ones. I didn't bring those down. I also have some little ones that are on my bedside also. So it's amethyst is like, I don't know, there's like this royalty almost among gemstones. So it would be amethyst, it would be selenite, it would be diamonds, emeralds, rubies. The things that actually have high value here on earth are the ones that are so full of richness and power for us. Like when humanity really figures out how to use these as energy sources and healing, we're going to really be onto something. I mean, there is the idea that the ancient Egyptians were able to utilize these crystals much more for actual physical healing, and we just haven't figured that out yet. So the amethyst embodies the healing violet light, and so it's good for actual healing, but also the intellect, and it's good for meditation. It's good for getting in touch with the other realms. So yeah, I think I've given you enough. There's probably too much for one. Oh, this is the selenite tower. So as I said, some that I always just think of as being useful for everything. Yeah, so there you got to know a little bit about me too, and what I think of as part of my regular spiritual practice. I'm always about intuition and heightening that and connecting with my spirit guides. And I am pretty intuitive and can pretty much intuit things and know things before they happen, kind of thing. And so I work at that. So anyway, we're going to be a long video here, but I do appreciate you, especially if you've come all the way to the end. Thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe, join me on Patreon. I've been doing a lot of interviews lately, so where I'm being interviewed, so some of those are going to get put on Patreon. And what else? Oh, the class, well, for people at a certain level on Patreon, they'll be able to get the class recording. And so let me know in the comments what else you might want me to talk about, what you would like in another class. What would you like for me to teach about in another class? All right, so bye for now. Like, share, subscribe, join me on Patreon. I'll put some of the names of these crystals in the description box and all like that. So bye for now.